Set Apart Podcast. I am Derry,
I'm Drew.
and we just enjoy you guys listening in. We thank you for being so patient with us and being so supportive of our first episode that was launched last week. And so we just thank you guys so much.
Yeah, and it really says a lot to those that have been following us for a little bit. We only started our podcast back in 2021, I believe, that towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
And since we graduated last June, we've had like 6 months of not even posting a thing or not really updating you guys. But we appreciate that the support is still there.
Yes, we thank you so much. And we just want to say that we have some announcements to make for the past couple of weeks, I should say. We've been really busy.
Yeah.
I'll let Andrew go first and tell you guys his good news.
Yeah, so first off, guys, I recently got a promotion at my current employer, and
Whoop,
yeah,
whoop.
that's honestly, it's been a blessing just because
Mm-hmm.
now we actually have more time to schedule things out and get you guys more consistent episodes because before I was doing second shifts, so basically the time to do anything really wasn't there for me. But Derry has something really exciting to talk about because she has been pursuing one of her passions, and Derry, what is that?
Currently, I've been acting. Uh, a huge smile is on my face right now because it's something I didn't want to do in my teenage years and a little bit in my college years because I got discouraged. But now God has given me the energy and the focus and the confidence to get back into it. And so now I am a part of a production theater play called Pipeline, and it is through Acts on Stage. And it's going to be from March 31st to April 9th. So, anyone who's listening right now, go on my Instagram, Dairy underscore productions, and you could see the post there. And also go on Acts on Stage on Instagram as well. And the link is in the bio as well.
She's a superstar, y'all. I'm telling you right now. On February 11th, the day of this recording, she is going to be up there with the stars.
I am going to be just a normal actress.
Hey,
Yes.
I'm just saying, Gab Union, you better watch out.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, now that we got our weekly updates aside, and thank you guys again so much for supporting us individually and together. We love you guys. Now that we got those things aside, Andrew, why don't you talk about some things that we had on our list today to discuss with the people?
Yeah, so the main topic today, guys, is temptation. So there's actually a lot of ways to go about temptation. We have lust, we have, just simple sexual temptation that I feel like, most people, once they get of age, they go through those things. And
Right.
definitely, also the last thing is people pleasing, where we may not always act like ourselves, but because we're tempted to be around certain people, it can really affect on our overall character.
Wow, wow. Well said. I think that going into temptation, a lot of people automatically assume sex.
Yeah.
They automatically assume, oh, I have the temptation to go and sleep with another person. And I think that temptation goes deeper than just sexual things. It can, like Andrew said, cause you to people please. It can cause you to look at different people lustfully. Um, and so it can cause you to look at people as objects too.
Yeah.
I mean, women do it too, but I think a lot of men, still struggle with looking at women a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
and they look at them as objects or just things to do.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but kind of tying into that lust, it definitely causes you to look at people differently.
Yeah, and I mean it's kind of like interesting how you said like, you definitely see it in a lot of men who are tempted and yeah, like you said women do get tempted as well. And I feel like it's so normal to kind of like point your finger at the man, you know? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not trying to say like it's oh, men get over I guess popularized when it comes to temptation. No, but because it does happen with both sexes. But yeah, no, definitely something where I feel like, you know, women, when they get tempted, it's kind of like the whole player versus hoe stance, right? It's like when you
Mm.
talk about a man, he gets with a girl, oh, he's a player, and or when a girl gets with the guy, it's like, oh, that girl, she sleeps around, she's fast,
Oh,
right?
so when men when men get with women,
Well,
it's
when
praised.
well, no, when men, well, I'm trying to tie it into our temptation
Hmm.
topic where if men are tempted, are seen as weak. You know, they're seen as, oh, you gave into that. Oh, you really gave,
Mm,
gave that person that or whatever. But when women get tempted, it's like, oh, you go, girl. Like you do what you want to do with your body. You do what you want to.
okay, that's kind of different. Like,
Yeah, it's a different perspective on it.
okay, so I think when I think of lustful temptation, I think of being selfish,
Yeah,
right? Because when you are tempted to do something that you know is wrong, and we're talking about lust here, right? Because looking at someone in a lustful manner, especially in a relationship, that is low key considered cheating in a way.
yeah,
Because you can fantasize about doing stuff with that person, or, what your life would look like with that person. And a lot of people take that for granted. A lot of people just think, oh, men are going to be men, women are going to be women. We're human beings. We can, you know, fantasize. But I think that it's still considered not okay.
like what would you say is like the fine line with temptation and where it turns into cheating? Because I feel like if a guy or a girl were to see the opposite sex and be attracted to that person, right? And they see that person, they're like, whoa, that was an attractive person. But then they like, they don't stare, they don't like fantasize doing something with that person. Like where's the fine line?
The fine line is self control. Like, I can go down the street and look at someone who I think is attractive, but I'm not causing emotion far as, oh, I want to be with that person, or I want to see them with their clothes off,
Yeah.
or I want to see them in a certain light. I can say, hey, that's a beautiful woman, or hey, that's a nice looking man, and still be okay with who I am and in my relationship. And a lot of people have trouble with that because they're not taught self control.
Now, do you think temptation is more difficult to overcome when you're in a relationship or when you're not in a relationship? Because I feel like it's kind of the same, but in different ways. And what I mean by that is, when you're single, and you get tempted, it's kind of like, well, I'm not with anybody, so it's kind of like you kind of dig yourself deeper into that hole faster. While when you're in a relationship, obviously there's repercussions. You hurt more than the person that you're with. You hurt their families. You hurt, the people around you. You hurt that person that you tempted with because you were dishonest or you could have been dishonest about your relationship with, your person.
I think that it it's how do I say this? I feel like temptation is quote unquote harder in a relationship
Mm.
because when I'm single, I'm seeking intimacy. Like, kind of what you said, like, there's no repercussions, right? If I go and I sleep around. But in a relationship, because you're in a relationship, there's going to be constant temptation. There's going to always be someone from the time that you are in a relationship to the time that you get out of the relationship, or if you're married to the time that you die, there's going to be always temptation.
Mm.
And someone is going to either want to get with you, someone's either going to want to tear down your relationship. That's always going to be there.
Isn't it crazy how, like, you feel like you get no attention when you're single? And then
Oh,
as
yeah.
soon as you get with someone, like, everybody seems interested?
Oh, I mean, just from personal experience, I okay, I can't really say that the odds were higher of me wanting to seek a relationship when I was single, but I feel like the odds were higher when I'm in a relationship and my ex may pop up out of nowhere, or someone that I used to kick it with may pop up out of nowhere. And it's like, where were you when I was like single a year ago? Like, why are
They,
you
they,
here?
it's because people want to take something that they feel like they can't have. You know what I mean? Like,
And can that tie in with temptation,
yeah,
you
no,
know?
it really can because the other
Okay.
person's tempted to get something that they don't have or they feel like is a challenge. Like, people are just not straight up nowadays. People don't tell you their feelings. People don't tell you how they feel about you until it's like too late, low key. Because like I said, or like you said, why weren't you there when I was single? But as soon as I get with this person, then now you're suddenly interested. I feel like, and it's funny because I saw this one video one time where it was a guy he just got with a relationship, right? And he then saw all these like fine looking women, right, just
Mhm.
approaching him like, hey, what you trying to go out? Hey, you trying to do this? Blah blah blah. And it's like, where were you when I was literally got in a relationship 5 seconds ago? You rejected me when I got in the store.
Wow. That is insane. I think that just comes with also, like, how do I say this? It comes with territory, right? Like, some people feel like, and I'm going to bring up exes in this scenario because I feel like a lot of times people struggle with like talking with exes. Um, I feel like it comes with territory because I feel like once you're out of a relationship, you don't just now, you don't just go back to your regular life. Like, it's still hard. You still struggle, you're grieving. Like, breakups are hard, right? And so you still feel like that person is still yours even 2 minutes after you just broke up. And I think that people struggle with that territorial feeling of, okay, this person is mine.
Okay. And
And
I
yeah,
and I feel like along with that, it's also kind of like, why why would you like not want to just expand yourself once you're out of a relationship? Well, because like you said, we're hurting, and once that
right.
hurt can also low key tempt you into going back to that person because you feel like that was so normal. You feel like that was such a great relationship. Now that it's gone, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's kind of like, or you feel like you can't find better because you're stuck in that realm.
And some people feel like they stay in a relationship because they might not find better. Some people compromise and stay in a relationship because their fear is, I won't find better, or I'm not good enough to be treated better.
Yeah.
And people need to stop that. Like, if you are not happy and it's toxic, let it go.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not going to get any better. It's not.
Now, this is not really. I mean, I guess it could kind of be lust, right? But like, so the whole Tom Brady thing, right? You
Oh,
know the story about how he basically gave up his family for 1 year of football. Like it doesn't
oh,
have to
the
be.
divorce and everything.
Yeah, like it kind of made me think like the opposite sex may not be the thing that you're lusting after. It could literally be whatever it is that you're chasing after, because he's chasing after being the greatest football
Wow.
player of all time, and he gave up his whole entire family just to play 1 more year of football.
Idols.
Yeah,
Who are you praising? Who are you worshiping? And if it's not God, I highly suggest that you put it down.
yeah,
I
like
I do.
and I think if it's kind of hard to say because I'm not them, right? They're not. I'm not in their relationship, but it's kind of like she should be able to get back with him now. But even then, it's kind of like you chose a game that literally you've given your all in before this year, and still chose that over me and your kids.
Because we give ourselves so much to people, to places, to things that we attach ourselves to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why a relationship with God can't go wrong. Because if you're attaching yourself to people, places, and things, those things are going to die away. Those things are going to dissipate. Those things are going to either end you or they're not going to continue after you die.
Yeah.
So it's just, why attach yourself to even football?
Now, could that also be considered people pleasing? Because you could be pleasing yourself. I mean,
Okay, we might get ahead of ourselves.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
then let's carry on to, I think, sexual temptations,
Okay.
because I think that's something that I feel like society in general is not taught. Like, about temptation and about sex. I think we hush up about sex so much, or we even talk about it way too much.
Yeah, it's never
It's
like
never
a casual thing. I mean, it could be, but like it's usually only between like mature audiences, right?
right,
But I mean, majority of the time, you're always just like as a kid, right? You're like, okay, don't watch that, don't do this. You're
right,
not supposed to learn that, which is fine. I mean, I wouldn't want to learn that as a kid,
right,
but like, eventually when I get of that age, I should be taught, okay, like, is it okay to watch porn, right? Or is
right.
it okay to you know uh look at this girl a certain way? Is it
Mm-hmm.
okay for me to do this on my first date? It's kind of like,
Wow, that first date thing.
yeah, like,
Wow.
and I never really got that, only because I mean my parents never really like gave me the birds and the bees talk. It was just more of like
Mm.
a, hey, like you shouldn't lust after girls. You shouldn't do this, like basically
And
giving me a broad overview on how I should be, going about that.
why do you think that was? Like, why do you think you never got? And do you feel, since you're a guy, right? Do you feel like guys get the birds and the bees talk less than girls?
I mean, I don't know. If I'm being honest with you, I think they get it more only because I've only heard guys, be like, "Yeah, I got that talk when it was this." Like, I never heard a girl be like, "Yeah, they told me about this." It's
Hmm.
like, I mean, like, were you taught that?
I was taught that. My mom was definitely very strict coming from a Christian household. I think that she was very strict. And I think that when I got the talk, it was like, just don't do it. It
Yeah.
wasn't like, hey, this is the repercussions. This is why. Of course, we got taught about, diseases and things like that, pregnancy,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like, don't do it.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of basically how my mom approached it. Like she was just kind of like, "Hey, we're not taking care of babies, so you better not, have sex or whatever."
Right.
My dad was just kind of like, "Yeah, like he was more, I guess, or gentle with the conversation with me. He was kind of like, "Yeah, this is how you should be acting around women. Like, don't just throw yourselves onto them, and kind of like
Right.
like I said, a broad overview on how I should be, taking this whole puberty and sexual lust thing."
And I think that that's where it stems from. I think that, and it's not our parents' fault necessarily. I think it's their parents and their parents, because sex is like hush hush until you're an adult and you actually start having sex.
Yeah.
And you start to teach yourself. And I think that's the issue here is we're not open, we're not transparent. Don't get me
Mm-hmm.
wrong, I'm not going to sit down with a 5-year-old and talk about sex, but I am going to sit down with my 10, 11, because it's like that's when you start to grow
And
and
your
your
body starts to
hormones,
change.
right? So I think that it will help with the temptation, with the sexual temptation, if I'm taught and if people learn more about it.
Yeah, and also two things. So one, I like was required to learn the birds and the bees from basically my teacher, like in school.
I don't agree with that.
I mean, honestly, I didn't learn anything. I just learned what things were.
You see what I'm saying?
And
Yeah.
like I remember the whole entire time. Like they put the girls in one room, they put the guys in the other room. A man teacher taught the guys, a woman teacher taught the girls, right? And the whole entire time, I'm in fifth grade, by the way. Like all the guys were just laughing the whole time,
You
and
see?
then the girls like they were just kind of like grossed out, And
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, yes, it could have been maybe waited a few more years before they actually taught us, but like, cause I took sex ed in high school too, but like I didn't really care because I'm like I thought I knew all that I needed to know. But the second thing is, I think it's so crazy how like when you're just socializing with people and you kind of like always have that talk like, okay, when was your first time kind of thing,
Mhm.
right? I think it's so crazy when I hear people like, yeah, I was like, 12 or 13,
11.
yeah, 11,
What the heck are you doing?
like you really like where did you do that? It's like unless, you didn't have
Sleepovers,
unless you didn't have parents home or something, or you were just that like sneaky about it, but it's like,
school.
yeah, like in the bathroom, like what? Nasty. But all I'm saying is like I think it's so crazy how I feel like each generation gets worse and worse when it comes to sex education and sexual lust, because it's just kind of like, or it's temptation, right? I just feel like it's just getting out of hand. But I mean, who's to say it hasn't always been out of hand? You know what I mean? Like it seems
Yeah.
like they're like, oh, I wasn't doing that as a kid, I was being respectful, blah blah blah. It's like, okay, old timer, boomer. Like
Right. Were you, or were you in the back smoking
I
weed?
guarantee you, your grandparents were telling you the same thing.
Yeah, and I think it's just being transparent. That transparency, I know we're still on the topic of temptation and sexual temptation, you guys, but I think that still being in the dark as a kid does not help. It doesn't help, because then as kids and as adolescents, we want to explore ourselves because we're taught this vague thing, and then we're like, okay, well, what's so sneaky about it? And that's where you get the the curiosity. And the curiosity comes from, okay, well, let me go on YouTube. Well, okay, let me go on
Google.
Instagram, right? Twitter was horrible
Yeah.
for,
Well, Twitter is still terrible, but
yeah, I mean, there's sex on Twitter all the time. And also that stems from the temptation.
yeah.
It's
And
like it's right at your fingertips.
yeah. And honestly, like let's be completely honest. We're not saying we should just teach kids sex at the earliest age possible. No, like I think a fair age is probably around like junior high, right? Like
Yeah,
because
like middle school.
right before high school, because that's when you're most likely going to be tempted the most at a young
True.
age. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I think, just being able to the understand why sex is what it is and why it was created, and that stems from the truth. And the truth is sex was created for marriage, and it was created to multiply, right? It wasn't just, yes, it's for our pleasure and it's for satisfaction, but it has a standard to it, and it gets misused. And so that's where the temptation comes. But I think as humans, although we want that, again, it ties back to self control and where is your headspace at? And it ties into, okay, is this sexual temptation here because I'm a human, or is it here because of trauma?
Yeah, that's
That's a,
also a fact.
trauma. People go through things and people get addicted to certain stuff. So I think we have to, as human beings, open up about what we're going through in
Yeah.
our triggers.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to go through like a terrible, incident as a child, or like you were just exposed to it at an early age, but I feel like being able to, and that also ties in with like therapy and stuff. But that's not the topic for today, but like people at a young age need to kind of, ask for help. But people are scared to ask for help because it's such a sex in general is just a hard topic to talk about. But
Right.
especially at a young age, you don't want to like go to someone and be like, "Yeah, I went through this," because I mean, it's low key embarrassing, right?
It is.
It's like, oh, I don't want to tell them that I had to go through this, but it's like that's the only way you're gonna heal from it, like sooner rather than later.
Right. Right. Um, I think I want to touch on people pleasing just a little bit more while we have the time.
Yeah.
And I think I want to touch on it more because people aren't going to grasp what we mean by truly people pleasing. Because
Okay.
we live in a world where half of us are selfish anyway.
Yeah.
So people are going to be listening to this podcast like, how in the world do I people please? I'm the most selfish person in the world. But even being selfish,
You're pleasing yourself.
you're pleasing yourself, which in reality, the only thing we should be pleasing is God. So I think if you want to go into it first, babe, just a little bit about like even your experience, like have you people pleased before and what your temptations are?
Yeah, I've 100% people pleased before. I mean, I think that's something everybody goes through, or everybody like has done, right? I feel like, especially like in high school, I felt like I was, because I wanted to fit in a lot, I wanted to like act like other people, which was, pleasing to them because whatever they thought was funny, I thought was funny, and it was easier, quote unquote, to connect with them. So I feel like, I would kind of be out of my character because growing up, I was a very shy, kind of like to myself kid, and didn't really care about like, having friends because I felt like I just always had people around me. But then when I got into high school, new environment, new people, don't really know many people besides like kids I grew up with, right? So, from there, I kind of just like acted like other people, and, was very, like, I don't want to say fake because that's like, in some aspects, I did have the same interest as some of these people, but at the same time, I could have kind of, I should have been more true to myself.
You were fake. It's like, no, I'm just kidding. Two faced.
Yeah, well, I mean,
No.
yeah, Two Face would be more of
Yeah.
the way than fake. But I mean, at the same time, it's not like I like disrespected people. I was very like unkind to people for no reason. Like I wasn't that kind of people pleaser. I was more of like a, oh, they're acting like idiots. Let me go act like an idiot too.
Right.
You know?
I think that's normal, especially in high school. I think that's normal. But I think that for me, going based off of how I people pleased, it was really bad in my relationships.
Yeah.
Like to the point where I'm asking myself, am I even happy? Like,
Mm.
is this what I really want? Because am I doing this? And it could be anything, tapping into different things I probably wasn't supposed to. But, am I doing this because I love this person, or am I doing this to please them? And I think that loving and pleasing, yes, like you love that person, so you want to make them happy, but those are kind of two different things.
Yeah.
Because love is, yes, I'm going to still be me and I'm going to satisfy you, but I'm not going to be the one to satisfy you. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be your satisfaction because I can't. I can't. I can't wholeheartedly be your satisfaction.
And I think that's like the difference between like a real relationship and a relationship that, is toxic because, well, one of the differences, right? Because I feel like, at times I would people please in my relationships. I mean, shoot, I people please with you when we first met because I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that you liked me.
Yeah.
Because I was interested in you, I did everything I could to make sure that you liked me.
We were open about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like if you liked country music and wanted me to wear cowboy hats, I was going to do that.
What? Get
Like,
out of here.
or if you, I don't know. Okay, I wasn't gonna go that far, but
I was gonna say.
I was thinking of something. But I'm like, nah, that's not it. But if anything within reason, right?
Right.
I would have probably adapted to it and been like, okay, this isn't that bad. She likes these things, so I'm gonna like it too.
And I can attest and say that when we got together and I could tell there were some things you just did not like, but you didn't say anything.
What was it? What was one?
Wow. You put me on the spot. I think one had to be, I want to say, like, the whole hanging out with friends thing. Like, you compromised, but you did not like it. And okay, let me explain, because people are going to listen to that and be like, Andrew didn't want Derry hanging out with friends. No, that's not what I mean. I think that for me, I would want to hang out with my friends a little bit more, and I didn't know how to really time. I didn't know how to create time for us and my friends. And I think that you struggled with that. And there's some times where you didn't say anything. And I could just see it in your face, like, oh man, like, I shouldn't do that. But I think that's something where you compromised. And I had to learn for myself to kind of put myself in your shoes and see it your way.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we all go through things, especially. I think it's honestly like, well, I can't say that because I was gonna say it's more prevalent in relationships, but not everybody really goes through a relationship like everybody else, right? But
Right.
you know, no matter what your situation is, you're always gonna go through or find yourself people pleasing, but there's always a way to kind of distinguish that once you're mature enough to figure, okay, I want to be true to myself. I want to make sure that no matter what these people are doing that I want to hang out with, I'm gonna be true to myself.
Yeah, I can agree. And I think that people pleasing gets extreme when you base your emotions off of that other person's emotion. Like, if you did something that made you genuinely happy and I know that I didn't agree with it, but I'm genuinely happy, it's kind of like, I think I think that's a fine line. I think that's a little bit scary because I feel like your emotions should be your emotions no matter who's around, no matter who it is. And I think that people pleasing ties into wanting to be stimulated, wanting to fit in, when
Yeah.
you were in high school, wanting happiness. And when you can't find it in yourself, you find it in other people. And that's where it gets messy.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, you should always try to be true to yourself. You should always try to and if people don't like who you are, then that's obviously not your crowd, you know?
Yeah.
But
It's
people
easier said
sometimes
than done.
yeah, some people have to find it the hard way because, they like being around all this attention, but they're afraid to be themselves, which is why they compromise by pleasing the likes of others. So, but I mean, that's just the basis of it. But I think that we've said a lot of things, and we've explained how we felt about these topics. But Derry, tell us your handles real quick.
My handles are Instagram dairy_productions, and my Snapchat is little dairy 27.
She always does this. I always have to remind her. It's little_dairy 27. If people type in little dairy 27, they're not going to find
Yeah,
anything.
they are.
No, they won't. But
Okay, what's yours?
it's Andrew Martin 51 on Instagram, and on Snapchat it is Andrew Martin 380.
Yes, we just thank you guys for listening in and tuning in. Um, you know what? Shoot us a message on Instagram. If you have our Snapchat us. If you are watching on YouTube and listening on YouTube, comment for the next topics you want us to talk about.
Yeah, and don't forget to follow our Instagram, Set Apart Podcast _. There's people that try to take our names, but it's okay. And then we're also on YouTube, Set Apart Podcasts. And if you look at our bio and Instagram, you can get to our page even faster.
Yes. And we will be on all podcasting platforms shortly. Just hold on tight.
Yeah, we had to, since the rebrand, we had to use a whole different account. So we'll be on that.
Yes.
So if there's anything else, Derry, you have anything else to say?
No, that's it. You guys have a blessed week.
All right. Peace.